Aston Villa deserve more respect. Once again today, one of the best duos in Premier League football right now, Rogers and Watkins, are the difference makers. But going into this game, I actually thought Newcastle would pick up the win. I actually thought Newcastle would get the 3 points. But Unai Emery, this manager, deserves huge respect. Huge respect. A big Europa League win away against Fenerbahce midweek, in which was a dogfight, a very end-to-end basketball game of football. Today, you're going out to one of the toughest grounds in Premier League football. And Buendia, Rogers, Watkins, all three players stepped up massively. That strike from Buendia is absolutely ridiculous. But the amount of times Newcastle will open up for a counter-attack, it was a very, very good game to watch. We are going to be covering the Chelsea game and the Arsenal game later today. But do you know what? I honestly felt that that game had a Newcastle win written all over it. Very, very good record at home. But I didn't actually realise that Aston Villa now have got the same amount of points as Arsenal away from home. They have been insane away from home this season. But St James's Park is one of those grounds where the crowd can literally change the game. But today, Newcastle just weren't at the races. And Aston Villa did everything they could to quieten that crowd. Martinez, you know, the dark arts, the shithousery, always on the floor, doing what he does best. The amount of blocks that Aston Villa defence made. And when it mattered most, Watkins and Buendia were the difference makers. That strike from Buendia is absolutely ridiculous. It really, really is. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts. The road to 100,000 subscribers is well and truly on. We're about, I want to say 500 away from 88,000 with 2 other games we will be covering today. So let me know your thoughts and let's jump straight into it. Let's bring up the lineups up on screen. Miley, by the way, today for Newcastle was very, very good as well. Like, he deserves huge praise. What is he, 18, 19 years of age? Played in central midfield, played in right back when Trippier and Livramento have been out. You know, we'll start with Aston Villa. Martinez got man of the match from Footmob. I probably would have given it to... I thought Rogers was very good. I thought Watkins was very good. Buendia for his strike. Martinez, maybe. He did make a few good saves. The first save at the beginning of the second half was a joke. Maatsen, Torres, Konsa, and Cash. I thought Konsa had a really good game. Onana, I thought, was very good as well. Tielemans, one of the passes he played into Maatsen was stupid. Sancho, Rogers, Buendia, Watkins. That front four at the moment is all playing for each other. You know, Sancho was very, very good away against Fenerbahce. Got his goal. You know, Pope, Trippier, Malik Chow, Botman, Lewis Hall, Joelinton, Tonali, Lewis Miley, Harvey Barnes, Wiesa, and Gordon. And look, I want to say a couple of things, right? I want to start with Newcastle. Gordon this season in the Premier League has not been at the races. Like, this guy, just, I don't know what it is, but if you look at the Gordon from last year in the Premier League, he's got 2 goals this season in the Premier League. Last year, he had 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 GA in 34. The year before that, he had 11 goals and 10 assists, 21 GA. This year, 2 goals and 1 assists. Now, he has been very, very good in the Champions League. He has got 6 goals. But majority of his goals this season have been from the spot. And I don't think he's been anywhere near the level of the Gordon from the last couple of years. Wiesa only had a handful of chances, a couple of headers, but they were straight at Martinez. When Voltemade come on, he couldn't really get the ball under control, and he doesn't have the pace, which helps in a counter-attack. And if you look at the difference between Gordon, Wiesa, and Barnes, compare that to Watkins, Rogers, and Buendia. You know, Rogers this season has been stupidly good. One of the best attacking players in the Premier League. And that isn't, you know, at this point, what's he got? I think he's got 7 goals and 5 assists, which is 12 goal contributions in the Premier League. He's been very, very good. Scored against us, which was an absolute joke in the Premier League. Scored it again in the FA Cup. But he's one hell of a talent. Yuri Tielemans is one of the best passers in the Premier League right now. You know, and it's Buendia, who a lot of people thought May would leave. A lot of people didn't necessarily rate particularly highly in this Aston Villa team. And he is the one who scores. And I think Aston Villa now have got the most goals of any team outside of the box in the Premier League. And again, Buendia, not Jeremy Buendia, Emiliano Buendia is actually his name. He's got, 2 goals in his last 4 games. He's got a goal and assist against us in the FA Cup. But that strike, Nick Pope's got absolutely no chance. That is a very well taken strike. It really, really is. And then once they go 1-0 up in the first half, which was early on in the 19th, 20th minute, Newcastle had chances. But again, the same as it was in the League Cup semi-final against Manchester City, it just wouldn't run for them. It wouldn't, the ball wouldn't drop down to Wissa or Voltemada for a clear-cut chance. Gordon had a chance where Miley whipped the ball in. Barnes should have put his head on it. He tries to volley it in. It falls to Gordon and he puts it over the bar. That's Gordon from last season? I personally believe that's in the back of the net. They don't look like they're anywhere near the Newcastle up in terms of their striking front three. They don't look like they're at the moment all firing on confidence. The midfield, Miley, Joelinton and Tonali were very, very good. Of course, Newcastle are missing Bruno Guimaraes. In terms of the bench, that Elanga, again, £50 million, hasn't really done a huge amount in the Premier League. I'm not even sure if he's got a goal yet. I can't even remember him scoring. Ramsey, a familiar player in the Aston Villa ranks. Willock and Voltemada, and they brought on Bailey, Bogard, Digne, Mins, and Lindelof. And I thought when Tyrone Mings come on, he made a couple of really, really good blocks as well. A lot of people said Marco Bizzett should have started after his very, very good performance in the Europa League away against Fenerbahce. But Watkins, again, another game, another goal. Diving header, ball in from Digne in the 87th, 88th minute, something like that. And Watkins heads it into the back of the net. He's starting to start firing goals this season. He's now got 8 goals and 1 assist. But, for Aston Villa, that is as good a win away from home as you will see. Clean sheet, 2 goals scored. And so far today, all 3 Premier League teams have won away from home. And they have got Brentford up again next, who, of course, they lost today to Nottingham Forest 2-0. Bit of an upset there. Aston Villa quietly going about their business. I think, no disrespect to Aston Villa, but if this was a Big Six football club, there would be a lot more hype. There'd be a lot more noise. Unai Emery may be one of the best managers in world football right now. They're favourites for the Europa League. It's going to be difficult for them to hold on to Rogers and Watkins. More likely Rogers because he's a lot younger. But you'd imagine at this moment in time, they probably will if they get Champions League football again, which looks likely. A tough game away to Fenerbahce midweek, which they won, which put them second in the Europa League, which will mean they will have a home tie throughout the remainder of the Europa League. Look at that, 4 wins in a row. And if they go out there and beat Salzburg, which you imagine they will, which will be a home game, and they make the top 2, they'll have home ties up until the final if they make it. Only 4 goals conceded, win a lot of games 1-0, 2-1. But in terms of the Premier League, they are really firing on all cylinders. They're quietly going about their business. They've got, a difficult run of games coming up, but they have got a lot of games at Villa Park. A hell of a lot of games. They play against Salzburg, then they play against Brentford at home, then they play Brighton, Newcastle, Leeds, Bournemouth. What's that? At the next 6 games, 5 of them are at home. They've got an FA Cup tie again. They will play Newcastle United, and it's hard to write off Aston Villa in that game just because of how good they have been this season. At home, in terms of their home record in the league, they've got the 3rd best. And in terms of their away record, they've got the 2nd best. Unai Emery deserves huge, huge praise for the way that they're playing. Newcastle United, though, lost today, drew with Wolves, drew with Bournemouth, little bit of a rut. I do believe they've got all the capabilities of making top 5, top 6. Tough game against PSG midweek. And then they play Liverpool away in the league. And then they've got Manchester City. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them the next 2 or 3 games. But I believe with Malik Chow, with Bruno Guimaraes, if they can find a way to get Wissa and Voltemada in a team and get Barnes and somehow get Gordon up to scoring, in games, I believe that they will make the top 5, top 6. But Aston Villa deserves huge praise today. And it's all about, You know, it's all about Unai Emery. It's all about Ollie Watkins, and it's all about Rogers today. Let me know your thoughts. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. I'm out.